A lot of my photography-based work also include the built environment and really significant community engagement. Folded Map is a multimedia project that visually investigates the present-day impact of Chicago's historic segregation by photographing addresses on the same street in Chicago that are miles apart and in racially and economically different neighborhoods, but also bringing the residents together who live on those streets to have a conversation with each other. On my everyday commute to high school, I started to see how my neighborhood, which is predominantly Black, was very different than the neighborhood that my high school was in. And I didn't understand why. Some of the differences included my neighborhood having starting to develop a lot of vacant lots, meaning plots of land where homes used to exist that were demolished. And I didn't know why, but there were no vacant lots in in the neighborhood that my high school was in. My neighborhood had an abundance of storefront churches, fast food restaurants, like no cafes. And the neighborhood my high school was in had a variety of eateries, had cafes, which I soon learned that I loved. And I was wondering, how come there's none in my neighborhood? So the high school experience did two things for me. It helped me see the significant quality of life difference of each neighborhood in Chicago, focusing primarily on the difference between my neighborhood and other neighborhoods. And then also I started to really understand Chicago's grid map, its streets. As I got older, I realized there was a significant connection between race and geography and segregation, and how all of that contributes to our relationships, our social networks, how it ultimately segregates our social networks in ways that we don't even think about because it's so embedded in our everyday psychology. All of that together helped me formulate what would eventually be Folded Map. I was frustrated with how Chicago was being spoken about only through the lens of gun violence. And I really felt like there was a larger issue that was being avoided in this national conversation about the presidential election year, about issues that our country needs to face. And it was the absence of really talking about systemic racism and segregation and how those are the issues that led to issues, hyper-local issues with gun violence, poverty. And so that's when I said, you know what? I've been thinking about this project for a long time. Let me just get it out of my brain and start working on it. And that's when I started working on Folded Map in 2016. The project, in my mind at the time, was intended to prove a point. It was intended to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, visually, the present day impact of segregation, showing that predominantly Black communities in Chicago are disinvested in. And that is the reason these communities are struggling with the issues that are just only discussed about today. And then to show how over invested predominantly white neighborhoods are in. And so the through line to compare is the beautiful aspect of Chicago's grid map. I knew that it would be a really powerful way to prove this point by showing addresses that are on the same street in these different racially, economically different neighborhoods, and then focus on the houses and the surroundings of the houses. Since the addresses included people's homes, that's when the project took a different direction. And when you are passionate about a project for reasons beyond your own understanding, sometimes you just submit to the direction of the project, even if it's not where you intentionally wanted to go. One of the homes that I photographed on the north side, one of the residents happened to be home and came outside and was just, asking me, why are you taking a picture of my house? And so I told her, yeah, I'm doing this project comparing addresses to kind of show the difference of the neighborhoods and how the city invests in them differently. And your address exists on the South Side. And she said, oh, I never thought about that fact. What neighborhood is it in? And I told her, Inglewood. And Inglewood has a reputation for being the poster child of bad neighborhoods. But that's my home neighborhood. That's where I'm from. And there's more to it than that, obviously. And so I asked Jennifer, had she ever been to Inglewood? And she said, unfortunately, no. I've driven through. The only thing that I really know about it is what I hear on the news, which is all horrible. So it just came out of my mouth before I could even think. I asked her if she would like to meet someone other than me who lives in Inglewood. She said yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was not ready for this evolution of the project. It was not a problem for me to find a resident in Greater Inglewood to participate because of the community work that I was already doing. And so when they finally met each other and I asked them the questions, they quickly forgot I was even in the room, and they started to really talk to each other and listen. And they were telling each other stuff that they didn't know, not only about the neighborhoods, but about taxes in the city, the value of each other's home. And the conversation was just so powerful to me that I knew I had to do this again. It's been over 3 years that all of the MAP twins have known each other. And it was not a requirement at all for them to build a relationship outside of the project, but so many of them have. The project in itself was able to expand because I made a personal decision to kind of submit to the direction of where it could go by allowing the people who valued the project, who wanted to learn more about it, sharing with me what they wanted the project to help them do. That's when I decided to create the Folded Map Action Kit. It's a guide to help people participate in the project by themselves, by figuring out where their map twin neighborhood is and run errands in that neighborhood. Going to buy an organic apple. That speaks to, grocery stores and the accessibility to that. I ask people to take out $20 at an ATM. That will introduce people into how financial institutions treat neighborhoods differently. Go to a local post office or local library. That's in an effort to help people understand how our local government treats its own institutions in certain neighborhoods. And then, of course, something simple is going to buy lotion. General stores. That's a very different experience. The development and the creation of a community because of a project being able to help people understand a large systemic issue is fascinating to me. And I deeply respect community engaged projects because it can always grow in ways that you, even as the artist or creator of it, didn't even think of. And I think it's symbolic of the kind of solidarity and work that we have to do together in order to really make our world more equitable. The best work is when you're able to do it with other people or other people help you. And photography it can be such, just a solo kind of medium where you don't really have to engage with others unless your project or you decide to do that. So I love community engaged projects, and because I love it, so much, it's allowed me to stretch myself and move beyond photography or think of different ways to use photography to help connect people.